Welcome back to the She Does This podcast. I'm your host, Geordie Lucas, and I am so excited to have you with us for another season of incredible conversations with real women on how they do it. Well, we're starting this season off with a bang as I am joined by one of the biggest names in the Australian music industry. She's an ARIA award-winning singer-songwriter. She's starred on Home and Away and has worked with some of the biggest names in music, both at home and in LA. If you haven't worked it out yet, I am of course talking about Samantha Jade. In this episode, we're going to take things way back to the start of her career and hear about all the ups and downs along the way and how she very nearly walked away from music altogether. Here's my chat with Samantha Jade. Samantha Jade, thank you so much for joining us. So excited to have you on the podcast today. How are you?
Thank you for having me. I'm good. I'm good because I feel like I'm a bit more back to work and it's a bit more normal, and that makes me very happy.
How has 2020 been for you as an artist?
I mean, it's just been one of the it's been the strangest year for everybody. But the strangest thing is not waking up and having a schedule. Like, you know, our schedules are so jam-packed and there's a million things in a day, and I love it like that. You know, I love what I do. I love working, and I really missed what I love most is performing, and we haven't been able to do our job essentially. So that has been really, really strange. And I think connecting with an audience and singing to people is just so different than singing to a screen.
Yeah.
So I've really, really missed that, and I think that's a part of me that needs to be fulfilled that hasn't. So that's been tough.
So we're going to hear all about your amazing new song Back to Back, but I want to go back to the start of your career. I want to hear all about how you got to where you are today.
Oh.
You signed a development deal with a record company very early. How old were you when you signed that?
I was 15 when I signed the deal, and then you kind of have to wait till you're 16 to kind of, you know, work with, you know, the parents and all of the things that go along with all of the age stuff. But I was working essentially from when I was 15, and it was what I wanted to do. But my mum and dad were very adamant that, you know, I finished school, and, you know, when you're at that age, you don't know things. You think you know everything, but you don't. And they were like, you know, we know you love singing, but this is a huge move in life. And they wanted to make sure that I was, you know, definite. And so they traveled, they came with me. My mum, of course, was with me everywhere. But the whole family moved over when I got a proper record deal. So I was signed to the development deal, and then the label kind of came in, and that's when it got serious.
Yeah.
So the label of Britney Spears and Justin Timberlake and Usher and Alicia Keys. Like, it was insane. It was just the people that I've always looked up to were now my peers, and that was so weird. I'm from Perth. Like, it was just so different, such a different life. And I always had my family there, and I think that is truly the only reason that I'm okay.
Yeah. Like, it's a crazy place, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
So what was that like, being so young? And I remember when I was young in the industry, very green. How did you not let that go to your head? Do you credit that to just having your family there, or were there other people around you sort of supporting you in that?
Do you know what? I think it's a combination of my family, because they would be like I'd come home from the recording studio and my mum would always be there. So I always had a moral compass right next to me. But I'd come home and my dad would be like, hasn't been loaded or unloaded. Like, you need, like they would be there. They were like, you need to still do your stuff at home. And my brothers were doing homeschooling at the time, and I was their French teacher. I knew no French, but I was like, want to learn French, so I'll teach them. So I still had to do that. Like, I just kept normal things.
Yeah.
I'd be in the studio 1 minute with, you know, Rodney Jerkins and Timberland, and then be doing that. So my life was so, you know, a mixed bag. And I also think being green, I think that I was just so excited. I wasn't cocky. I was just like, what is going on? Like, this is my life. And my mum always did say to me, this may not last forever, you know, so just really enjoy it because this is not normal. And I knew that going in. So I think I never thought like, oh, I deserve this. This is my life. I knew what an incredible opportunity it was.
And how are your brothers, like having their whole life like changed for your dream? How was that?
Well, they were super young. So they're 7 and 9 years younger than me.
Right.
They're baby brothers. So they were kind of like in primary school still. And my mum and dad really wanted to keep the family together. And so we moved over, and I, at the time, was doing a school tour. That's what you used to kind of go around and do school tours. And so you'd go sing at all the schools, American schools too. So scary. So I would do that. And my brothers would come and like watch with my dad. And we went to this one school, and it said no weapons, please, like a no. And that scared them so much that they were like, we're homeschooling, we're not going to school, we don't want to go to school. So they ended up doing homeschooling for the 5 years that they were there. And my dad kind of taught them, which was crazy. And also they wanted to stay in the Australian system because I think we're a year ahead. But it was I think now, like speaking to them now they're adults, of course, they're so happy they had that experience because they're like, we ultimately grew up in LA. Yeah. Which is cool in a way because and now they live back in Perth, but they know the world. They traveled, they saw a lot of things. They were on video sets from when they were like 6 years old, like such a different life that they've lived.
So talk to me about the development deal and what goes into that. I was watching Guy Sebastian talk about development deals. He was on TV a few weeks ago and he was saying how, that there's this tier of singers that make it, but under that are so many singers in these development deals that don't
go anywhere or make it a job.
So what is a development deal and what does that involve?
Basically, it's kind of like bringing people in to then develop all their skills. So they bring in someone that can sing, can dance a little bit, has the look, wants to learn, and then you kind of go through developing all those skills. And so for me, it was basically learning to songwrite, and I loved writing little poems and little stories, and so learning to make those into songs. And I danced a little bit, but not really, so they put me in dance rehearsals, and I'd never had a vocal lesson in my life. I just sang from, knowing songs.
Yeah.
So it's just like, it's like a school. It's like a school of performing. And you just work on your craft and perfect your craft. But the hard thing about it is it depends on who is signing you to this development deal. And I was unfortunate because my deal was now looking back, I didn't know it at the time, but people that thought that they owned me basically. So because you are young and because they are putting you in all these classes and doing all these things, you then, it's that thing that you then form a bond and you feel like, oh, can I do it without them? Where it's actually you're the one actually doing it all and, learning these skills. And you can't learn, I feel like, and you would know this, you can't learn, you can learn to sing, you can't learn what the power of singing is. That's an innate thing.
So unfortunately the deal sort of didn't work out. It didn't work out for you in LA. So what was that like coming home? When did you realise this isn't working out, this isn't me?
It was tough. I was there till I was 21 and then assigned till I was 21 on Jive. And it was a whole lot of things. It was my management filling my head with things and me listening to them. And ultimately we left. We actually didn't get dropped. We left the deal. We were like, my management said to me, we're going to get you another deal straight away. Don't worry about it. You don't need this deal. And I just believed them because you do when you've been ultimately brainwashed for a long time, you are like, they know best. And it ended up not being the best decision, but hindsight, I stayed there for a little while and I sang on Glee, that TV show Glee. I was doing like background vocals for it, and that was really cool because ultimately I love singing, so I was fulfilling my cup a little bit because I was still singing. And then I just kind of went around kind of writing and all those things. And then I had this meeting with a really big record exec, and he was buttering me up, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to get a deal. And, you know, everything's a deal. Like now, not so much, but back in the day, it was like a deal was everything. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is it. I'm going to get my next record deal. And then he said to me, you're a great singer. You're a great, great vocalist, but you don't have a star tone. It's not memorable. Yeah. And I was like, okay, all right. And he's like, so we're going to pass. And I don't think it's going to happen. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And that was, as someone who's so bruised already, that was it. That was the nail. And I was like, okay, now I don't have anything left, because it took so much for me to go to that meeting.
Yeah.
And so I knew in that moment that I needed family. I needed people who knew me for me, and I needed realness, and I needed Australia.
Yeah.
So I packed up my life and I came home.
So coming home, you were kind of, I'm guessing, a bit disenchanted with the industry. What was life like for you back in Perth, living, quote unquote, a normal life?
Yeah, no, it was definitely different. It was definitely different because, you know, the industry in Perth, obviously, it's not like the LA industry. So it was quiet. But do you know what? I was like, music, I didn't want to listen to the radio, because I was listening to songs that I had demoed for people, you know, so I put my vocal down and then people had recorded them and they'd blown up, or listening to songs that I knew I'd worked with the producers or I'd worked with the writers. And so I couldn't go there. I didn't allow myself to go there. And it took a really, really, really long time to heal some things that I don't think are even healed yet. You know, I think it's still a process. But I did a lot of searching for why am I feeling my ego, and why do I need it? Why can't I just love music? Why can't I just love singing? You know, my mum would say that to me. My mum was so in touch and spiritual. So I was kind of going through that journey a little bit, and I found, I mean, I'm definitely not there yet still, but I found comfort in just knowing that I love what I do, and maybe it doesn't need to be on that level. So, yeah, it took a while though. It took a while.
Yeah. So you developed at some point a friendship with Guy Sebastian, who encouraged you to audition for X Factor.
Yes.
Tell me about that, being friends with him. So obviously he had well and truly already blown up in Australia.
Yeah.
And he's one of the biggest male artists in the country.
Yeah.
He's sitting there telling you, come on, Sammy, like audition for this show. Did it take much convincing to get you back in the game, or were you hesitant?
I was so hesitant beyond. And I'd met, because the year that Guy won Idol is the year I signed my American deal. So we had kind of been in the industry kind of the same amount of time, just very different paths.
Yeah.
And he is so generous with his time and information and advice. And so, I knew him for a long time because we just known each other through the industry, and Jules I had met and got really close to. And it was actually my mum and dad who wanted me to go on the show. They were like, listen, the only thing you haven't done is be in the public eye. You've been in the industry for so long. You've been behind the scenes within.
But no one knows who you are.
Yeah, but no one knows. And so no one's had the chance to like you or not like you, really. And I was like, oh, yeah. And kind of the history of Australian artists, you know, going back to young talent time, is I think Australia likes to be part of the development of an artist. And I think they like to see it on TV because they feel they're a part of it, because they are. So I thought that may be the right route for me. But I didn't know, because I was just so broken that I just was like, but how am I going to do it? How am I going to stand up in front of like a crowd and actually sing when I feel so insecure?
Yeah.
And I spoke to Guy because he was a judge.
Yes.
And I was very nervous, and I actually was going to maybe do The Voice, but The Voice auditions had already gone. And so it was kind of the X Factor was it. And I said to him, what do you think? Because I know you're a judge and I'm nervous that, you know, what do you, and he said, I'm going to be honest with you, it's probably going to hinder things for you. It's not going to be helpful, because people are going to be like, oh, they know each other, da, da, da.
Yeah.
But if you want to do it, like, do it, because once they know your story, that you not just coming on as my friend and you've been doing this for years and years and years, people know, they get it. They just need to be told. So go for it. And I remember walking onto the stage that very first audition. And I was so nervous. Like, I'd been nervous before, but not like that. That was like proper nerves, like, oh my gosh, I may die, that kind of thing. And right after I sang, it was the most incredible feeling because I knew how much I'd put myself out there.
Yeah.
It was such a full circle moment for me.
And, of course, you made it through, got into sort of the live rounds. And I actually remember watching the show and it looked great for you in those first few weeks. I remember you were bottom 2, 3 for yeah, it didn't look good.
No.
Was that kind of in your mind, God, this is happening all over again? This rejection?
Well, so my thing was just get to lives, because then you get to perform on that stage and it's like Aria's performance every week, the hair and the makeup and the lights and the TV and the whole thing. And I was like, just get to lives and then you've kind of done what you wanted to do, right? And so I got there and I was like, oh my God, I got to lives. And then the first week, I'm in the bottom 2, literally the first week. And so I was like, Australia hates me. Everyone hates me. I just back into that zone. And then I somehow got through that and then was okay, kind of coasting for a little while there. And then when I got to, I think it was week 5 or 6, so I'd kind of gotten used to kind of being like, oh, I'm okay. Then my new goal was to get to the top 3. That was me, in my mind, that was winning.
Yeah.
And then, I was in the bottom 2 for 2 consecutive weeks. It was such a great experience. It was unbelievable what that show did for me. And I know for the guys who sing for me now, Joe and Isaiah, they were in a group called Fortunate on the show, and they say the same thing. It builds up your confidence without you even knowing it. Even if you do get out early, you can then go and do so many more things than you could have done before.
So what was that moment like when you won?
Oh, my God, so crazy. So unexpected. I cannot tell you enough how shocked I was. And people around me, my family, Guy and Jules, my best friends, they knew. They were like, oh, she's going to die. Oh, my gosh. She's no. Because I was like, there is no way, with all of the things we just talked about, this is going to work out for me. No way. And so it was just, I think my face says it all, that moment. I was just like, I couldn't believe it. And I remember Nat Bass saying to me, because once it happened, I turned around to look at the judges and I was like, what? And Nat was like, turn around, you just won. People want to see. And I was like in a daze. I was like, oh, this is not real. So I'm going to wake up. It's going to be that Australia's next top model thing where they've read the wrong card. I did. I was like, there's no way. And it took me a really long time to go, I won. I won.
Yeah.
What? So, it was crazy. It was nuts.
I can't imagine. So many people come through. I mean, as you said, Australian Idol, The Voice, X Factor. There's so many people that go through those shows. And unfortunately, a lot of them sort of, they hit that peak or they win and then sort of fade into obscurity a little bit. What do you think has been the key to your longevity?
I do think my journey before the show has helped me. I can only say that now. Because I think that I know at all times that it could be taken away because it has been in the past. So I think that I just am constantly trying to get better, work more, work harder, be there earlier, leave later, all those things, because you just don't know. There are so many people just behind you waiting for your spot. And so you've just got to keep at it, stay at it. And I listen to my fans. I really listen to my fan base and the people who follow me. I always ask them, what do you want to hear from me? What do you want to hear on a record? What songs do you love from my last record? Do you want me to do more ballads? And I always have a vision of what I want to do, but I do listen to what they want to hear too. Because ultimately they're the people keeping me in a job.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I think that we all have our own creative, journeys and places we want to go, but you do have to listen to the people who have helped keep you there as well.
And you have also, dabbled in the acting world. You've played Kylie Minogue. You were on Home and Away. What sparked that? How did that opportunity come about? And was that something you always wanted to do?
I always liked acting.
Yeah.
I'd done a little bit of acting in the States because kind of like when you get signed to a label there, you kind of get an agent at the same time, and they send you on auditions, and it's, it's that whole thing of like do it all kind of thing.
You've got to be a triple threat. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And so I'd done some auditions, some good, some horrendous. And I really enjoyed acting. I liked it. But the Kylie thing came about right after I'd won the show. They called me and they said, listen, we've got this role and it's to play Kylie Minogue. And since I moved home, I used to work at a makeup store on Oxford Street, and people used to walk in and say to me like, oh my gosh, you look like a Minogue, you're like a cousin. And I'd be like, oh wow, thanks, like I'll take it. And I love Kylie, but I never studied Kylie like I did like Christina Aguilera and Beyonce. Like, yeah. So it was just a weird thing that we look alike, and maybe there are some similarities. But I was like, because of that, I was like, is this role, like, is this the right thing to do? And I really had to think about it. But I thought, if I'm playing her in a show, it's going to show that this is me playing a character, and then there's me. And so I took it on, and it was also Kylie. I was playing Kylie in 87, which is the year I was born. So I didn't know anything about that Kylie. So it was really cool to kind of delve into, like, the only things I could find was on YouTube and that time and that era for her, and it was really cool. And then Home and Away is another. I just think Home and Away is an Australian staple.
Yeah.
Like, it's just like, you got to do it. It was so fun.
It's rude not to.
Exactly. It'd be rude not to. I'm Australian. I loved it. Like, I absolutely loved doing that show. It was just the best time.
And how were the fans receiving of you? How did they receive your character? And there's a huge thing with soaps of singers and soaps and stuff. And how was that for you?
I was really lucky, and I think it's because I played Kylie, and that In Excess show was just so not because of me, because of everyone else who was cast. It was brilliant. Like, the guy who played Michael was just unbelievable. So the show was really well respected. So I was really lucky that was my first, like, appearance with that. Home and Away was actually really great because, again, the people who watch X Factor and those people that really want to be there for the journey, they like Home and Away, and they watch those shows too because they're supportive of actors on that journey, because so many people have come from that show and gone on to do huge things. So I was really, really lucky with that. I got a lot of support. I also chose a role. Well, I was asked to do a role and said yes to a role that was very different than the Kylie thing and me in real life. So I wasn't playing a singer. I wasn't playing a nice girl. I was like playing a mum of 2 kids, and she was like a crazy girl. She went to jail. There was an arrest. I was playing this complete opposite. So I think people were just like, wow, okay, this is a bit strange, but we like it. So, I was really, really lucky with that.
And so is there acting in your future, do you think?
I'm always like, there has been roles that have, come in and out that have been offered, but I never want to do anything to just do it, to just be like, oh yeah, I'll do it because it'll be good to be in a show or be in a. I always want to be careful about that, and also music is my number one. So if I do have an album to do or something like that, I like to focus on that. But I think if the right role comes along, then for sure.
Yeah. So let's talk about your latest single, Back to Back.
Yes.
All about female empowerment, the sisterhood, which is what we're all about here at She Does This. The film clip is just so beautiful. What I loved is that most songs are about love, but this is about friendship and having your girlfriend's back. Yes. So how did that inspiration come about for you to write this song?
Do you know what? It was very inspired through COVID. Yeah. I just felt, and I know like everyone that I speak to is like, oh my gosh, yes. When we were in COVID, we couldn't have those like moments with our friends that we need. Because your girlfriends are the glue. They are the glue that keeps you together. And, you know, like it says in there, when your lover's made another mistake and, you know, we're near on the same page, like when you have a fight with your partner and you're like, I need to speak to my friends about this and I need to to go, you know, and then you're like, I'm okay, I'm fine. And even things in your life, like girls get girls. You just get each other on another zone.
Yeah.
And I wanted to write about that because I missed my friends through COVID, and I'm from Perth, so I have a lot of friends that I still have from school, and I see them when I go home and get that little fix. My best friend, who I've known since I was 12, was living in the Gold Coast at the time.
Yeah.
So we were FaceTiming a lot, but we would usually like meet up. That was our thing, you know. So just not having that, I really noticed, and I just wanted to write about it. I was like, I don't want to write another love song. Pat has too many songs, he's lucky. And I don't want to write like a fun dance song. I want to write about how incredible my friends are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you've got some incredible friends in the industry. And that's something that I wanted to talk about as well, because in my experience, it has been somewhat difficult sometimes finding genuine friendships with females.
Of course.
Because essentially you are each other's competition.
Exactly. Yeah.
So how, you know, have you had some horror stories with female friends, and how did you find those genuine friendships?
Yes, to your first question, yes. I've had some moments. There's been some. It's tough because, you know, what we do in our industry is it's weird. The schedules are not normal. It's not a 9 to 5. There are days that are absolutely incredible that you get, you know, like from the outside, and someone comes in for a moment, it must look like, what is this? This is not real. This is not a job. This is easy. Being sent packages and, you know, getting car services to play, like things like that, doing photo shoots. But that's not what it is. That's like 2 days out of the month. And then there's the hard slog of the work and haters and all of those things.
Yeah.
So I think people that see that don't have a real idea of what it is. And so sometimes it's hard for them.
Yeah.
It creates a weird kind of feeling in a friendship. But I've been really, really lucky. My best friend is my friend since I was 12. We went to school together. She has known me before and after and through everything. So I've just been so blessed because she's like always the same, has not changed for a second, and just I know that when I go to her, there is nothing but just real friendship at the forefront. So I'm so lucky with that. And then Jules, who's also a very close friend of mine, I met her before I'd done all the shows, but she is obviously married to Guy, so she understood the life. And then when it kind of happened for me, she was like, I'm not going to see you much anymore. And I'm really going to miss our like days that we spent together all the time because I know you'll be busy. But she's been so great because when I was navigating through some of those things that were really new to me, she had experienced them. So I've been so blessed with that. And I only have like, I will say 4 or 5 friends. I keep it so tight. And even now, like my band and my singers, like they've been my band and my singers for years. Yeah. So I just think it's about, like, look, you can find new friends. And sometimes at events you meet people and you're like, oh, you're nice, you're normal.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. That's refreshing.
Yeah.
You know, and there might be those new friends that come in, which is great.
Yeah.
But it's mostly people that I've known forever.
And I think that probably speaks to your character as well, that you haven't let it go to your head because there's still those people around.
Yeah. Oh, because it's so easy to be friends with people who are like, you're fabulous. Oh, my gosh. And they just want to build you up and you're fabulous. And I'm like, that's not right, because I'm not all the time. I know that. And I need to talk about that with my friends. You can't have those people around you. God, you'll be a mess if you do.
So the film clip for Back to Back is so beautiful. One of my good girlfriends, Gemma, who I've known for years and years and years, is in it. Where did the idea and the inspo for that come from?
I had this idea. So whenever I write songs, I see the video and I see colours, what will be the colour palette and ultimately like what it will look like. And when I was writing it, I said to Carmen, the girl I wrote it with, who is also another friend of mine, who I've known now for about 5-6 years, and I chose to write it with her because she's a really incredible, supportive female in the industry who's like so nice. You meet her and you're like, oh, you're nice. She's that girl. And so we wrote it together. And as we were on the FaceTime, because we have to write like that now, I said to her, like, I just want to get really incredible women in this film. I don't want it to be me. I want it to be heaps of girls and people that I really admired through the industry. The whole thing was getting people that are successful but kind. And that was my number one requirement. And these women that are in the film clip have all so successful in their own right, but have always led with kindness and been nice through all of the times I've met them in the industry. And I remember meeting Rachel Finch years and years ago at an event, and it was I was really new to the scene, and it was like a Melbourne Cup thing. And those things are like, they're so nerve-wracking and just there are so many people there and you're just like, am I in the right, what is this on my head? Like, am I in the right outfit? Like, you just feel, so daunting. And because I was so new, now I've got a different take, but then I was like so nervous about everything. And she was so kind to me. We were hosting this kind of box thing together, this event thing together. And she was so kind to me, so generous with her time and her advice. And I will always remember that day. And she's always been nice throughout the whole, and that was years ago. Yeah. So she was one of my first picks to be in the video. And I asked her if her daughter would be in it because I know her daughter does singing lessons and dancing, and I thought that was really special. And Julesy, obviously, my best friend. So I was like, you've got to be there. And she was like, I'm in. She's amazing, that woman. She finds a way. Like, she has 2 kids, a marriage, her own career, and she's like, I'll come. Even if it's for an hour, I'll be there. She's just that person. She makes it happen, which is just so rare. And then Leah, who's in it, who was the first female tap dog ever of all time.
Wow.
Which is just such an incredible thing. Yeah, and she's performed at like Radio City Hall, and she's been in countless musicals and directed, and she just is there being all normal, dancing, and it was just the best day. And Gemma too, I've known her for such a long time, and she's such a triple threat herself, like photographer, actress. She does so many things, and she has 2 kids. And I was like, because that day there was something wrong with the car or something like that, and I knew there was so much going on for her, but she just came and just her energy was so calm, and she was like, no, I'm excited to be here, did her thing, and then dealt with whatever was going on. I was like, that, I know that's not easy. Like, thank you for being so kind. Emma Wiggle did it, which I was like, the first female Wiggle, Emma, and she's just the nicest human. Like, you could talk to her for hours. And then my friend Amali Golden, who I've known for years, who we used to sing together. She was on Idol.
Yes.
And she's now like killing it at the acting game. Like, she's in all these new shows and has not changed one bit, just so normal. And pregnant with a baby girl. So that was really beautiful. So it was just a warm, fuzzy feeling day. It was everything it looks like. It felt like that to film.
Yeah. I was so excited to see Emma Wiggle. I have a 14-month-old little girl who is like already obsessed with her. Every time she comes on the TV, Evie's like staring at her. Very cute.
You know what? It was so funny because all of these women are, so successful, like I said, in their own right, and they all have, little, not little, but like fan bases. Like, you follow them. And then Emma Wiggle comes in, right, and my whole team lose their minds, like, because they've all got kids too. My artist and my social media girl, like, they all were like I've never seen them so nervous because they're so used to being around people, and they're all going, they've got their phones out, like, should I show my daughter? I'm like, they were losing it. And I said to Emma, you were the biggest hit of the day. Like, they couldn't even control themselves when you came to the set. Like, oh my God. So funny.
So tell me about what else is on for the rest of the year. What are you hoping for 2021 as well?
Oh, yes. I mean, I just want to go home. 2021. I mean, I hope by Christmas I can go home because obviously the WA borders have been like firmly closed, which I get because they've handled it so well. But I miss my family, and I lost my mum 5 years ago, which was the hardest thing in the world. So Christmas is already really tough, and so being with my dad and my brothers in my house where she lived gives me a little bit of comfort. So I'm really hoping that happens then, or even in the new year. I really want to go home, and I want to do a tour. We were going to do a tour this year. We kind of planned, like at the beginning of the year, we're like, okay, album rollout, tour, I think 3 singles, in stores. And like I said, I love hearing what my fans want and if they like things. And I find it really important to do in stores and meet them and talk to them. And you can't do any of that with COVID, so we decided to push everything. But I'm hoping next year we can tour because performing is just the best feeling in the world.
Samantha Jade, thank you so much for joining us. Hope you can get back on stage and share this amazing song with all the women of Australia. It's such an empowering, beautiful song. Have an amazing rest of the year and hope you can get home for Christmas.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Enjoy your Christmas with your little baby.
Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. I'll be back next week with another episode of the She Does This podcast. In the meantime, you can follow us on Instagram and Facebook. Just search She Does This. Give us a follow and keep up to date with the latest from the site. Have a wonderful week.